Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the Colonial Dungeon, this is the Court-Martail Podcast! Introducing your host for this evening, he has a bald spot on the top of his head, and he weighs in tonight at a number you don't need to know. He is the Colonial Loudmouth, Sean McCarty!
And welcome once again to another fantastic episode of the Court-Martail Podcast. I am your Colonial Champion Sean McCarty, emphasizing syllables and joining me with full coherent sentences most of the time. He is the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the man from the Bay who gets it on all day in the pro wrestling context, of course. Please welcome Skyler Greenberg. Welcome back to the show.
The guy who also can't figure out a calendar.
Yes, sir, but it's okay. We are past that. I have forgiven you. You are back on the show. We are here we are, AEW Full Gear review. We came a long way to get to here.
Because I knew you wouldn't watch the show without me.
Well, I actually had some serious, significant issues getting this show because I was definitely watching it on Saturday on pay-per-view. And you can't see me winking, but I am winking. So my show had some issues, so there was some parts I missed, and you're going to have to fill me in on those parts. But judging what it was, I'm not that upset I missed it, to tell you the truth, and we'll get to that. We are, of course, talking about our AEW Full Gear 2020 review. Here we are, folks, and it is going to be a show of the ages. What was your overall impression of this show, Sky?
So I came into this show prepared to hate it.
Me too.
After watching All Out.
Yeah.
And I have to say that this show was not nearly as bad as All Out, and there were elements that I could classify as being good and entertaining.
Agreed.
It's just that it's so marred in stupid shit, illogical crap, and just disgusting things that you would never show people that makes you ashamed to be a professional wrestling fan.
I mean, this show is really schizophrenic. If the cheesy music in Elite Deletion wasn't enough. This show really is schizophrenic, because like halfway through you get a good pro wrestling match, which is like, all right, great. And then you get that, which we will obviously get to a little bit later on. Did you watch the buy-in?
I did not.
All right, I'm going to skim through the buy-in real quick, because there was only one match on it. I didn't watch because I was so rushed for time, because I had to watch this over the course of the past few days and I've been completely swamped. I had to skip all the entrances and I had to skip all of the promo packages. I'm sure that they were decent, but I did skip a lot of the filler in this show. So we went right to Allison Kay, former NWA World Champion, facing Serena Deeb, the current NWA World Champion, for the NWA Women's Championship.
Is it kind of sad that the NWA can't even get their title matches on their own show? They have to have another company do it for them.
Personally, I'm just happy that it's even getting on television to begin with. I don't know what's going on.
And hopefully we get more from the NWA.
Yeah.
Cough, Nick Aldis. Cough, cough.
I'd like to see the NWA come back into form and really come back into form the way they should. But, you know, there's still a lot up in the air. But honestly, this match was not bad. The only issue I had with this, these two are both good professionals and they worked a good match. It was hard to tell. Allison Kay was trying to heal it up, but I felt like she could have done more. But of course, there was a really nice arm wrench, like I think Excalibur called it a straight jacket, which was countered into a backstabber. That was from Serena Deeb onto Allison Kay. It was really a good match. It was back and forth. There was a nice Alabama slam. It wasn't too long. So, you know, I still would have liked a little more healing. And then when the comeback happened, I would have liked to have seen a little more back and forth. It was pretty one-sided. But it was not bad. It honestly was not bad.
I think Serena Deeb is a really good worker, and I'm so happy for her that she gets the chance to shine with the NWA Women's Championship.
Well, her and Allison Kay are both pretty good. I liked Allison Kay in the NWA, and I like Serena Deeb from every match I've seen of her past CM Punk's Straight Edge Society. I've enjoyed. You know, she's got some skills, and this was two serviceable women doing a serviceable NWA Women's Championship match. No complaints about it at all.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Was it true that they had Thunder Rosa come on after and she stared down Serena Deeb?
Yeah, and I'm not really sure what that accomplished. I
know Serena Deeb took the title off of Thunder Rosa, and if that means that they're going to continue that feud, I wouldn't mind having Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa in a feud for the Women's Championship.
I wouldn't mind that either. But here's the thing I don't understand about this. There was no physical contact. Thunder Rosa just kind of showed up and got in her face a little bit and then looked at the title and then walked away. And I feel like if you were going to really tease something or to really amp up the fact that Thunder Rosa wants her title back, you would have had her at least hit Serena. Or, you know, it's just like, it was just there. And I don't think it accomplished what it was trying to accomplish. I like the idea of the feud, but the execution itself was a little poor in my eyes.
Well, here's the thing, Sean. Remember, the company that we're talking about gives you way too much.
I know.
I like that they went subtle.
I know. But at least just a couple of fists, or even just Thunder Rosa knocking Serena Deeb on her ass, and then being like, okay, it could have done with like one punch. Any physical contact would have helped in this particular context.
Even like patting the belts.
Yeah, it just didn't accomplish what I think it was trying to accomplish. I get what they were going for. What they did didn't work. And then Eddie Kingston cut a very good promo. I did watch an Eddie Kingston promo and an MJF promo on the buy-in, both of which were great. No surprises there. I recommend, though, anyone to look at this Eddie Kingston promo and actually go back and find this and look at this Eddie Kingston promo, because you could see it in his face and the way he talks into the mic and into the camera. It's really well executed, and you could tell that he means what he says.
And he's one of the very few who does that when he cuts a promo in wrestling.
Yeah, and it's not a promo like anything you've ever seen. It's really well done. I recommend anyone to go back and watch it. But until that time, we still got more show to rattle off, and we start with Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page. Your thoughts?
So this was... I am hesitant to praise this match because I thought they did do some good stuff, even if Kenny Omega is a goof.
Understand.
I just wish I could root for Adam Hangman Page as the babyface, but I can't because they have butchered his character.
They've done him dirty with the booking. I agree as well. He's one of those guys, I think, that they really flummoxed up for what the potential was when he was facing Jericho at the first All Out, which was a totally different Adam Page than the one we're seeing now. And the one we're seeing now, it's nothing against Adam Page. I still like him as an athlete a lot. It's just I think that he's also been doing just remember who he hangs out with.
Exactly. And the problem is that this match was a Kenny Omega style match. And every once in a while, when you thought you could get into it, you thought you could really, really like it, something stupid happens or something goofy that just takes you out of it.
Well, let's back up.
In fact, they started as being goofy with Kenny Omega having two girls with brooms walk out.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's back up to this entrance, because what the hell was this? This was... So, for those of you who didn't watch, Jonathan Roberts, or whatever the hell his name is, starts... Justin Roberts, thank you.
The glitchy robot. He is the glitchy robot.
Yes, the glitchy robot, Justin Roberts. He rattles off this nonsense about, like, comparative weights and, like, other, like, championships, and it's a whole bunch of stupid, like, fluff stats. And the first thought I had was, why isn't Omega cutting this promo on himself? That's heat. That's heat. That seems like something Omega should be saying. Especially if he's the one who probably came up with all of that mess. Omega should be saying this stuff. He should be cutting a promo of that if he actually had any promo cutting delivery. That should all be coming from Kenny Omega. The video game turned wrestling turned business, or whatever the hell Don Callis said about Kenny Omega.
Yeah, don't remind me he was there.
Yeah, it was. Impact was represented here, ladies and gentlemen, and boy was it. And boy was it.
Don Callis because he was just taking the check.
And we'll get to the Impact homage later. But as for this match, Don Callis is actually pretty good on commentary. I think the whole video game thing was dumb. Excalibur doesn't help anything, and Omega's moves don't look good.
They start this match with a collar and elbow tie-up.
Which is nice.
Struggle, and they just flail around, and I'm just like, what the hell are you guys doing?
I don't mind the collar and elbow tie-up. It's more of
No, it was bad. It was bad.
Well, do you really expect Kenny Omega to know how to collar and elbow tie-up successfully? Be honest, Sky. Be honest.
You're right.
I mean, and as evidenced by some of these moves, Omega takes pride in telling everybody that he's never been trained, and honestly, it shows. Because I've noticed with Omega, and I've noticed this with Janela too, the way they go up for a Hurricanrana, they arch their body completely the wrong direction. And as a result, they try to snap Rana, and it never looks good. And it never looks crisp or precise. It always looks rushed and unprofessional. And both Janela and Omega do it.
I noticed it too. Also, other things that he does, like running the ropes by completely turning his back on his opponents.
Yeah, and getting that little prep step that he likes to do. That little like hopscotch, like he's playing hopscotch on the playground hopscotch.
Exactly. He's like 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot. Okay, here I go. I run.
Yeah. Here's what was made up. Where this made up for. There were rules to this match. And one of the things that was better, not the best, but better about this whole night is that for the most part, rules in matches that were meant to be actual matches, rules were actually adhered to. And this was, at least for the first few matches.
The refereeing was significantly good for the first half of this show.
Yes.
And that's a compliment to AEW.
Yes.
In that they had competent refereeing, especially in Darby Allin, Cody Rhodes, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, that was a huge improvement. Then Omega goes to attempt a senton, and he's going to do that rolling senton that he does, like the Ken Anderson one, and then go up into the top rope, but he slips and falls on his ass, and I popped. Because it was
funny.
Absolutely hysterical, and you could tell how annoyed he was that he looked like the total buffoon. And
I will say, I did like Adam Page's offense. It was really good offense.
He's got a decent punch, but it took forever for him to finally throw one. It took forever for a punch to actually land in this match.
I know. This match was structured weirdly. Like, I know Kenny Omega's the heel and Page is the babyface, but they didn't really do the heel takes over and then shine the babyface and then...
No, it's a Kenny Omega match. He doesn't care about any of that. He doesn't... Omega doesn't care about that. He cares about having an artistic, pure physical competition back and forth type of match. He does not care about any sort of wrestling tropes that would get people invested beyond a platonically physical level.
Which is hypocritical, because if you're going to take professional wrestling as its art, one of the most basic and impressive, but most importantly, influential stories in pro wrestling is the battle between the bad guy and the good guy.
Yeah, maybe you should properly learn the art.
Exactly. Because he had all that potential.
Yeah.
He was a guy who was a great athlete, and he just got a mind for being either a bad guy or a good guy, then we would call him the best wrestler in the world.
But then Omega puts up a Tiger Driver that looked fantastic, and that only got a 2 count. And then they did this punch for punch. I think Jim Cornette calls it the 1-2, and it was bad. It was slow. They turned their back toward each other. It was like this over-dramatized. I wouldn't even call it selling. It was acting.
It wasn't, because I remember that sequence. Omega comes off the ropes and like clotheslines Page, and then I don't know. Actually, he did a snap suplex or something.
He did that snapdragon that looks awful, that never lands properly, and is the actual worst. And it's another one of those.
Gets up immediately, no sells it, and hits Kenny Omega, and they both go down.
Yep. I did like the Bulldog and Bret Hart false finish though. Shortly after that, the homage, if you will. But
that was a good homage.
And then I like the struggle that at the end when Omega's really, you could tell that Page is fighting him on the One-Winged Angel, but he lands it anyway. And of course, nobody kicks out of the One-Winged Angel, at least for now, which is one of the few long-term storyline booking things they have going for Kenny Omega. But honestly, this was not bad. If you took heels and baby faces out of the equation and didn't care about any of that at all, this was all right.
I mean, yeah, I guess. This wasn't a bad match. It wasn't anything that I personally would say, this just is terrible. It was just a match, and it had stuff that was good and it had stuff that was bad. It just never got going to become great, and I think it went a little bit too long.
Oh, well, I think pretty much every match on this show went too long. I'm blanket stating that a major complaint about everything that AEW does all the time goes too long. Goes way too long. And that is no exception
way too long,
here.
he does way too much.
Yeah, way too much. And we'll get into the way too much later. But honestly, for an opening match, it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. Kenny Omega is Kenny Omega, and this was a Kenny Omega match. And for those people who like Kenny Omega matches, I'm sure they really, really liked it. Me, it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I'm not offended by it. It wasn't the worst thing I've seen Omega do. And these two do have a decent chemistry together, so I'm all right with this.
Now, we'll get to this later in the main event. We'll talk about this later at the main events, at the end.
Okay.
But I just want to talk about when Kenny Omega as a number one contender.
Oh,
but
yes.
We'll get to that later.
Yes, okay. We will get to that later on, but we have another match to go through. Now, I think, was Orange Cassidy next? That was the match I missed. I missed Orange Cassidy and John Silver. So, Sky, I'm going to let you recap this. I assume that it was just a standard Orange Cassidy match plus the worst faction gimmick in wrestling history.
Yes, it was. But let me go a little bit deeper into it.
Yes, please do.
So, this match was originally a pre-show match before it got added to the main card and Serena Deeb versus Allison Kay was put on the pre-show. By the way, I do want to say on a side note, I hate putting title matches on pre-shows because it devalues the title.
Yeah, well, based on what WWE has led us to believe and trained us to believe, then yes, that is true.
But that's another argument for another time. I got a little bit heated just thinking, okay, so on the last show, you had Orange Cassidy in the second to last match, which is technically the co-main event.
Yep.
And now you've moved them to the pre-show and now the second match on the card.
Yep.
Which shows that they have no long-term storytelling planning whatsoever.
Mark booking. It's a smart booking. Tony, you are one of us, and we will eat our own. That's what we do best as smarks.
Oh, I'm going to get to Tony Khan later.
Yes.
Oh, I have some things I have to say about that man. But Orange Cassidy comes out, and you look at him, he's all cool and calm. And I do have to say, you are right in that there is something about Orange Cassidy and the way he portrays his personality that makes you want to like him.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know what it is, but
me either.
He has the ability to draw you in just by how cool he is.
Well, I don't know if cool is the word I'd use, but I get what you mean. the
Right.
demeanor.
Right, but he starts this match off doing the hands in the pockets, which is a high spot for the fans. I don't know. He does his thing where he avoids John Silver. He does the play kicks at the shin. He does the pockets in his pants, and he does the pop up. And then John Silver knocks down Orange Cassidy, and for a heat spot, grabs the pockets and rips them off of Orange Cassidy's pants.
Oh, how dare he!
And this fired up Orange Cassidy, and he started taking it seriously. And once he started taking it seriously, it actually wasn't that bad. I will say this. You were right when you pointed out on the last All Out review that we did, or last AEW show we reviewed, All Out. There is something about John Silver.
There is.
There's something there. Because I like his expressive face, and when he's getting heat, he's playing to the crowd saying, this is your guy, watch me kick his ass.
Yeah, there was something about him that struck me. I think he was on the pre-show with Private Party, I think, with, I forget what the other guy's name is, John Reynolds or Alex Reynolds. Alex Reynolds, and I was impressed with him, and with both of them, actually, because it was a good matchup, but particularly John Silver. And, it's like I want to like both of these guys. Half of the time, it's just refining things. If these guys weren't allowed to do absolutely everything that they came up with and were reined in a little bit, this show would be a lot more airtight.
Agreed. And I have to say, this show was better because I think the talent that was involved was better. They didn't have that battle royal that had to get everyone on the show, including the terrible people.
Yeah, it's nice not having Janela on the show, isn't it?
No Joey Janela, no Marco Stunt.
I
will say this, though. Well, he's currently arrested, so there's not much we can do about that.
Exactly.
But the one thing about John Silver that was annoying me was commentary, talking him up and hyping him up, and saying, maybe John Silver should be the leader of the Dark Order. Or maybe he should leave the Dark Order. Now, do you want to know who was saying those lines?
Excalibur?
Excalibur.
Yeah.
Because Excalibur is the voice for the people, and the people are smarks. So he's going to sound like a smart.
This whole show was made for smarks. This is the big conclusion I've come up from this whole show. This show is made by a smark for smarks, and they do not care about drawing in an audience anyone other than smarks.
Or pretending that any of it is legitimate and real. They just want to have fun.
Because they're catering towards smarks, who all also know that it's silly and fun, and they do, they don't care about attracting any new people to watch their show. That's the bottom line. And that's what they want. And I mean, okay, but in any event,
it means that nothing's going to change. That's just what it is. They're just going to keep doing the same things that they're doing right now to appease their audience of smarks. And if that's what they want to do, that's fine.
Well, they'll keep doing that until TNT puts the kibosh on it. TNT. Let's see how much money they're making. If they're not making enough money, TNT will pull the plug on that show. I guarantee it.
Oh yes.
So. Oh yes. They're gonna either have to. They'll have to adjust.
Orange Cassidy wanted his finisher. I don't even know what it was called. It was something orange.
Freshly squeezed, just whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Freshly squeezed.
Good job, Orange Cassidy. Keep on doing the do and stop doing the play kicks. I'd like you a hell of a lot more if you stop doing the play kicks. But
yep.
Anyway,
and also Orange Cassidy, main eventer, right?
And speaking of guys who Cody has drawn with, meaning gone to a time limit draw, not necessarily brought new people into the seats, but not necessarily not bringing new people into the seats. I don't really know specifically. Anyway, Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin for the TNT.
I have no idea where you're going with that one.
For the TNT Heavyweight Championship, and this match there's no disputing it. This match was the best match on the show.
I feel you. It was the best story of the night. It was the best well-told story of the nights.
Well, I did have some issues with the match. Don't get me wrong. I think there were I did have some issues with the match, but first of all,
about issues. Can we talk about their entrances?
You mean that Arn Anderson looks like Bruce Arians? With that sheet? Because he does.
No, he's fine. I'm talking about a certain chief branding officer.
Oh, I skipped past Brandy. I'm like, hi, Brandy, bye, Brandy. I got no time for you.
Okay, you want to know what you missed?
Kinda.
Okay, so they have Darby Allin come out in his car, and he takes the skateboard and he puts it into the windshield of his car.
Yeah, I saw that at the end.
He drove that car out, took his skateboard out, and then pushed it into the windshield. And I'm just like, why the hell are you doing that?
Because sad boy Darby Allin is sad, Sky. Come on. Get with the program.
Right. And then Cody Rhodes, by the way, notably, Cody Rhodes,
I was so glad to hear that. Honestly, it was great to hear that.
But Cody Rhodes comes out with Brandy, and Arn Anderson, and Dustin, and QT Marshall, and the Gunn family.
Yeah, this whole entourage thing is really getting old. I'm really not digging it anymore. It was okay, like, the first few months, but now it's just like, guys, stop. Stop.
And they are particularly bad when it comes to later on, but we'll get to the post-match later.
Yes. First, we've got Darby Allin, whose body paint looked good. I can't get over him wearing the shorty jorts and the tights, though.
Still way too small.
Yeah, it was weird that Cody was the guy who was the more physically intimidating of the two. That is not always the case, or often the case.
It's not hard when you're wrestling a stick.
But I love the pop that Mike Chioda got.
Mike Chioda.
He might have gotten the pop of the night.
No, he didn't get the pop of the night, but he was one of them.
You're right. Senior Benjamin got the pop of the night. Senior Benjamin got the pop of the night. So anyway, we'll get to that. So they start this match and it's great. I mean, Cody's getting upset and surprised by Darby's offense. Comes down. I loved Arn Anderson telling Cody to stay on him. You're the bigger man. Don't let him pull that shit. Which you heard too. That was great. And then Cody goes back in. Great babyface shine the heel. Cody was a great heel. I wish he wasn't babyface walking in and walking out.
Exactly. That's the problem with AEW, is that no one is a babyface or a heel 100%.
Yeah.
They change their alignment for the sake of a match or the sake of an angle and then go back to what they originally were.
And I think that makes things way more confusing in the long run.
It does.
But again,
I mean, I like Cody's work in this match. He wasn't the heel that was cheating.
No.
He wasn't the heel that was trying to take advantage of Darby Allin. He was just doing rough work and putting Darby Allin through hell.
Yeah.
Darby Allin would not quit.
Yeah, he was healing it up, but he wasn't cheating, but it was clear who was who in this situation, which helped. There was a little miscue that Darby missed something, but they quickly converted it into a hip toss and covered it, and it was a nice cover by probably Cody, I imagine. Darby really does know how to sell well. The more that I watch Darby Allin, the more I'm starting to recognize why people like him. I've never been a big fan of Darby, but the more this match was a little bit, I was easing my stance.
It helps with Darby Allin that he's getting more experience because
Yes.
when he came to AEW, he was greener than goose poop.
Remember the Cracker Barrel street fight? I do.
Oh my. Yeah. But that's part of why he had to do the hardcore stuff, because he was trying to cover up for how green he was.
Yeah.
But as he gets more experience, he's starting to show a little bit more, at least babyface fire, and at least ability to sell.
Yes.
His offense is still a little bit iffy sometimes, but he's definitely got the selling down.
But it's getting better. He is honestly getting better. And there have been, by the way, this is not the last person I'm going to talk about who has significantly improved in their work. And we'll get to that in a minute. There was a really nice hammerlock power slam that happened in this match by Cody. All those hammerlocks were great. Just picking away at the arm. Cody did a moonsault that missed, and it almost looked as good as Angle's missed moonsaults. Almost.
You can't reach those moonsaults thickness, though.
I mean,
that's true. It's freaking true.
Angle's moonsaults were picture perfect, but I think I've only ever seen him hit like 2. But they always were beautiful. It always like made me sad a little bit that Kurt never was able to hit those moonsaults because they looked so good.
Yes, and not like the Charlotte moonsaults.
Or that one from Lita from the Rumble.
Oh,
yeah.
God. Don't remind me.
Remember that one?
Way too low.
That was cool. Anyway, so then Cody starts biting the hands, and again, that was another one. Here's a move that I feel has completely lost its value. The Code Red. And they did it here in this match. And they seem to always do one on every single show they have.
Hold on. Code Red, was that the top rope?
No, that's the one where they do like the standing switch, where they do like the flip, and it's like a power bomb, but you know, they leapfrog the opponent, but then they catch the legs in the arm and they both flip over.
Okay. I remember. I know the one you're talking about.
Dustin Rhodes used to do it a lot, but a lot of people have done it.
Now it's not special anymore. It's just a move.
But that's also AEW for you. Every single move that you could have ever possibly liked in the past will lose its value on an AEW show. That's a fact. Then we get a big false finish with the belt, and then finally a big comeback by Darby Allin and the coffin drop, and for some reason the coffin drop was not the finish. And I personally think it should have been. It should have been the finish.
It should have been.
You know, I think that Cody is so much his father's son that he couldn't help himself. And he had to get something of a dusty finish.
He had to get a little bit of dusty, baby.
He had to. I think Cody could not help himself but to pull a little bit of a dusty finish. At least they're still hyping up another match between these two, which I honestly would be interested in seeing based on this match.
Hold on. How would you be able to do that, though? Because they did the Super Crossroads from the top rope.
Yeah,
so
which was like halfway through the match, too, which was also kind of confusing.
And also, they screwed up on the Super Crossroads for a very important reason.
Because it was very obviously contrived, and they had a bad camera angle that showed them helping each other?
Well, but also that Darby Allin rolled all the way underneath the ropes, and then Mike Chioda started counting, and then he realized that they were underneath the ropes, and he shouldn't have counted at all.
Yeah.
What should have happened was that Darby Allin rolls towards the ropes, but it's not underneath them. And then as Mike Chioda's making the count, Darby Allin grabs the rope, making it look like he knew where he was and being smart rather than just being a fluke.
All right. And again, that's going to be more experience on Darby's part. But that was still, he probably remembered that at the last second. And he's like, oh, snap. Well, all right. Well, we're going to have to work with this. But still, all in all, this match was fairly solid. It was the best structured.
And the reason why Darby Allin won, by the way, was because they did I think Cody was going for like a powerbomb, and then they did a series of reversal pins.
Yep. And then he just happened to catch him on one.
Yep.
And to me, I feel like this should have just ended with a finish 1, 2, 3. That never happens in AEW, and it always hurts me every time. Because this could have just been that, and that would have really, in my view, that would have been more emphatic. It would have gotten Darby more over in this win. To have beat Cody clean, and to have been one of the only 2 people to have beaten Cody clean.
like, it's still a clean victory, but it's not clean in the sense of being a dominant victory or being a definitive victory. This was a fluky victory.
Yeah,
which is fine if you're trying to present the guy as being a fluke winner, but if you're trying to present him as a champion, and as a champion who can be a solid person in the mid-card, it didn't do Darby Allin good.
Yeah, the finish itself was like my only real detriment from the whole thing. It suffered from a rough finish, but it was. Then Taz comes out, and Taz is a hell of a promo.
Oh, wait, hold on. You just skipped by something real important. Cody Rhodes, after being a heel
the handshake
entire match, goes on one knee, hands the championship belt to Darby Allin, shakes his hand, and puts the title around his shoulder. Like, way to go from being a heel to a babyface again, making Big Show's head turn.
Yeah, well, I think Big Show, honestly, we need to apologize to that dude because nobody is changing heel to babyface as fast as the people on AEW programming. Not even the Big Show.
And this brings out Taz, who's saying, I am sick of this shit. Would you guys just your love fest in the ring? And Taz, you're speaking to me, man, and I appreciate that.
I loved Taz's promo here. And then Starks and Cage come, and they start beating down both of those guys, and then this just degenerates into a Attitude Era brawl.
Which, by the way, where the hell was Cody Rhodes' entourage? They were watching the match. I assume that they would be able to get involved, but they don't show up at all.
It's, I don't know, Brandy was probably busy. They were all on Brandy's baking show. They were busy filming that in the back, so they couldn't help. Sorry. But then, Will Hobbs...
And then they couldn't help themselves but have the moment where Starks and Cage are both holding the TNT Championship and teasing a feud between the two guys who just got together like maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah, which is, there's no point in doing that. There's no reason to do that. It's like, I understand you all want the title, but like, come on. There's a time and a place.
Yeah, and then they start walking Darby Allin around to the, I don't even know, the floor of the arena, and they're going to powerbomb him in this like obviously contrived stump bump prop.
Yeah.
And they put him through it. And then they pull him out of the prop just so they can put him on top of his car and pretend they're going to smash his arm. And all of a sudden, Will Hobbs shows up, who, by the way, was a little bit late because they had him on the car for a good minute before he actually showed up with a chair to get them to go away.
Yeah. It was not that great. The post-match angle was pretty bad when it comes to that kind of finish. If Taz cut the promo and they had just beaten them both down and then left, fine. Would have handled that. That would have been great. But the rest of this was...
Even if they just powerbombed him into the fixture and they stood over him with the title, that would have been fine.
Yeah. But that was...
They can't help themselves and they have to do too much.
Yeah. And that's a Mark booking for you. Now, I've got a controversial opinion. Because...
Go ahead.
So... After this, there was a Nightmare Collective promo where QT Marshall said some things. Dustin Rhodes set up a match on Wednesday with Dustin. I forget who he... it was QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes against... I forget who of the two. It might be Cage...
Check out the internet
it might be Cage and Starks, actually. It might be the two of them.
No, I don't think so. No. Well, here's the thing. If they were setting up that match, then where the hell were they?
Busy getting ready for their promo.
Exactly. But you're watching your brother and friend.
Sky, this is the kind of logic that AEW does not dabble in. You're reaching here. You're reaching.
Oh my God. Okay. So they're in a bunkhouse match against Butcher and Blade.
Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. Did you hear this promo? Did you hear Dustin Rhodes' promo?
I skipped the promo.
Okay. Dustin Rhodes, here's my controversial opinion. Dustin Rhodes is the best promo in AEW right now. Every time that he gets on the microphone, he draws me right in. He gets me right excited about what he's talking about, tells exactly what's going on. The babyface who's speaking for the people, he's saying what's going on in AEW, who's responsible, and what he's going to do about it. And I love every time that he cuts a promo. It's been like one of the highlights, even though he has not been involved in anything of real consequence at all. Every time I hear Dustin speak, I'm like, yes, I want to watch your match. And nobody else, MJF does that definitely. There's a lot of great talkers. Don't get me wrong. Moxley's a great talker. Kingston's a great talker. Cody's a great talker. MJF is a great talker. Jericho, when he wants to try and isn't being thrown in mimosas, cuts a good promo, of course. But Dustin, right now, to me, is the all-around total package promo cutter. For as much as we see him, he is top grade promo.
I think it's between Dustin and Eddie Kingston for me. Like, those two are probably the best two because they make me feel like this is real.
Yeah. And they take it with that level of sincerity that you don't get a lot of in modern wrestling. And one of the things
So, do you want to know what's currently happening on Dynamite?
Dare I ask?
Yes.
Now,
So
when we say currently happening, we mean happened on Wednesday of this week.
Oh, okay. Currently happened, whatever.
So what happened on Dynamite this week, Sky?
So they're having the bunkhouse match, and I see QT Marshall jumping off of a ladder onto, I believe, Blade, who is wearing the crimson mask.
Of course.
He does an elbow drop. 1, 2, kick out.
This is happening in real time, ladies and gentlemen. But not in your real time, in our real time. But speaking of real time and more controversial opinions, we have come to the AEW Women's Championship match. Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose. What are your thoughts on this title match?
Nyla Rose is the Nia Jax we do not need, but we want.
I honestly have to agree. You were talking, Sky, about Darby Allin being greener in grass and improving significantly since his time in AEW. The other success story, I think, from tonight would be Nyla Rose. She
was a hoss.
She has slowed down a lot and really picked up a lot of keys that she was missing before. And honestly, she did a really good job tonight, as did Hikaru Shida, working a match that I don't think either of them have worked up to this point.
I like this match. Like, this match, even though there was some stuff that was clunky.
Yep.
There was some stuff that was a little sloppy.
Yep.
They both worked a good match.
Yeah. Vicky was great for the heat spot with the kendo stick that worked on the leg. Everything that they did with the chair was bad. But once they moved past that leg wrench into the ring frame was really clever and looked awful. Just painful.
Oh, yeah.
And
totally agree.
And then there was no outside count. So then this is where the rules started kind of irking their way out the door. Because they were out for a good chunk of time, probably 2.5, 3 minutes outside, and there was no count. But
they were starting to disintegrate before our eyes.
But they made up for it. They got back in the ring. There was a weird baby splash on Sheeta's legs, which just looked a little odd. But Nyla kept the pace well. Shida hit a really nice suplex on Nyla. I wish that Nyla did not sell as much as she does.
I would agree with you, because if you're going to sell her as the big monster force of that women's division, and she is the biggest woman on that roster, then you need to have her be this wall that is hard to bring down, except for the best of the best.
Yeah.
And I guess Hikaru Shida is, and I guess it's okay, but when I want to see Nyla Rose, I want to see her as the force. I don't want to see her being moved.
Right. But not so much like Nia Jax, where it's just like, it's like Big Show levels of not being able to move or not being able to do anything. It's like Nyla Rose is very close to finding that perfect balance of work rate and actually like slowing down and letting the sell, not selling certain things. If she did more of that, she'd be really good. She's learning a lot. The pairing with Vicky has obviously very much helped.
Well, the other thing too is that you have to remember that Nia Jax is not like most girls.
Oh God. It's moving right along. So this match was a little long, as is most of them. But then they did this. Nia Jax did the deliberate shoulder up, and I could believe that because
wait, Nyla Rose.
What did I say, Nyla Jax?
You said Nia Jax.
I think I mixed them. I said Nyla Jax. And so
That's a weird love child.
So Nyla Rose did the deliberate shoulder up on Hikaru Shida, which I understood because she's the heel. But then they did it with Hikaru Shida, where she lifted up Nyla's, and I didn't think that was appropriate for the babyface. I would have rather Nyla just kicked out.
Right. I like Hikaru Shida, but I don't believe her because she's, compared to Nyla Rose, she's really small. Like, I could see that with any other woman on the roster, but doing it with Nyla Rose, it's kind of stretching the believability for me.
Well, that's also the sad thing is that Nyla allows herself to take these kinds of bumps too, which I wouldn't have wanted. You know, she now that she really has shown that she can work, now's the time to really hone that and not allow people like Hikaru Shida that. And what I thought the finish was okay, but would have really impressed me and would have really solidified this is if the finish had been the reverse. The same exact finish, but instead Nyla Rose just continually kneeing Hikaru Shida's head and knocking her down and winning the belt like that.
Like, imagine if the referee stopped the match because Hikaru Shida was knocked out.
Or afterwards.
Great way to start.
Or even afterwards, and they go get medical attention and bring Shida out, you know, and then Nyla walks away with the belt or something like that.
You could even sell Hikaru Shida wanting revenge after being knocked out, and you keep her off TV for like a few months.
Right, and because they do shows like every 3 months, that would make sense. Honestly, though, as far as women's title matches go in AEW, this might have been the best.
It's definitely up there.
It's definitely up there.
Match from All Out.
Yes, it's definitely up there. This was much different and much better than anything I've seen either of these two do, and it was very well done. And then
my only concern though is that you can't really have this type of match with any other woman on the roster because the women's roster is still very thin.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Eventually, what I'm worried about is that their whole mainline angle has been that the Elite are going to end up with all the titles, and I shudder to think that the only female member of the Elite... Do you see where I'm going with this guy? I don't want to say it because I don't want to bring it into existence, but there is a certain executive in AEW who happens to be female who must get on every show. Who may try for this. I'm afraid.
I feel like the fans would be so against it if it were to happen, but the problem is that I see that this is a smart company and he's hired a bunch of people to be his executives. And you have to please the executives, so why not?
And then, but let's put that horror fantasy behind us, because it is time to move on.
To get another one.
It is time to move on to what JR called the most booked match in fantasy wrestling: the Young Bucks versus FTR for the AEW Tag Team Championships. Sky, what were your impressions of this match?
So, it has been previously stated that I do not like Young Buck matches.
Neither do I.
And I stand by that statement.
Me too.
But I'm going to say this. This match was good. It was actually really good. In fact, it was so good that I hated it.
Me too.
And this match was the type of match that you have at the end of a feud, not the beginning of one.
True.
And I hated that they blew through a dream match when you could have made it a dream series.
Well, you say they blew through a dream match, but this match went 30 minutes. Blew through, I don't think is the appropriate word for this. They marathoned their way through hot-shotting their first matchup. If that makes any
more
sense.
Matches, but I don't think you need to.
Yeah, it's just the thing with the Young Bucks is that it's just way too much. It's just way too much with the spots, to the point where I actually about like 4 to 5 minutes into this, I ended up skipping about 7 minutes of the Young Bucks beating up FTR, and I came in, I think shortly after the Heat spot, because I was trying to save some time. And honestly, I don't feel like I missed much because it's 30-minute matchup. And with the Young Bucks, you kind of know the matches that they're going to do, and you know the moves they're going to do. But here's what bothers me, Sky, and I'm sure you can back me up on this. You know what infuriates me the most about the Bucks?
What is it?
They know how to work and choose to wrestle Young Bucks matches. I have seen them work successfully, adequately. They know how to tag team wrestle. They know how to get the responses. They know how to use some of their body language to their advantage, but they choose to do their spot fests instead. And I've always hated that.
I would agree with you, and FTR really tried to force them to work a tag team match.
And they did, and they can. It's like when they faced Cody and Dustin. They had 3 different matches in that one match, but all 3 of those separate matches in that one match had good wrestling in it.
Wait, hold on. Can you say that sentence once again?
So,
they had 3 different matches in one match.
Back in the Young Bucks versus Cody and Dustin, they had a 30-minute match where they had basically one team heel, one team baby faces. They had one match and a comeback. Then they flipped it around, and then the other team was a heel, and the other team was baby faces. Then they had another comeback, and then they went to a third set of a whole bunch of spots with a finish. So it was like they had like 3 separate.
Every tag team. No, hold on. Isn't that every AEW tag team title match?
Yeah, but not done successfully. It was like it had more energy to it with Cody and Dustin as opposed to and it's same with FTR. That's what bothers me so much. They know how to work and they choose to do their matches. And if you just reined these 2 goofs in, it would be so much better.
Agreed. Now, let's shift to the other team for a second. Now, everyone here probably knows about my love for Dax Hardwood, and that has not changed.
Yes, Skyler loves Hardwood. Skyler loves Hardwood more than life itself.
He was really working this match. He was putting himself out there. Like, I was really loving the stuff that he was doing.
Cash is really good. I mean, they're both really good, and Dax has always been good, but Cash has really proven himself, I think. And he's gotten better just being along Dax along the way, and just be them as a tag team has been great.
Honestly, he was the star of this match for me because he was doing so much. The way that he was doing the chain wrestling, the way he was forward-flying moves, the way he was selling with facial expressions. He was doing power moves. He was doing flying moves. It was perfect.
Well, here's the thing with the flying moves. I took exception to FTR using flying moves. Because and JR said this as well, it felt out of character. And, and it really was. And I did not care for it. I like the how many superplexes did we see tonight up to this point? 2 or 3, right? And here comes numbers 4 through 6. Remember when the superplex meant something?
You're implying that it did.
It did at one point. At one point it did. But speaking of really fun spots, they did a great tag into the Steiner Bulldog by FTR. That looked awesome.
And then the Bucks followed up with doing the Swanton Bomb, which is an homage to the Hardys.
Yep. And here's another statement I want to make. All these homages, I've made this critique about Dolph Ziggler as well. When you homage something so much and it's referenced and the homage is referenced that much, what that does is it dilutes from the people in the ring because it makes everybody think, oh yeah, remember how great all of those people were? And they don't think about how well executed and how domineering their focus shifts from the people in the ring to the people that they remember who they know and love. And it hurts the guys in the ring. So yes, the homages are nice, but a match full of homages as the story isn't enough for me to really full-fledged enjoy it.
Speaking of which, did you notice that they did 2 homages FTR did to their former opponent's DIY?
Yeah, and I found that very confusing. Because what was there to gain from that?
So they did the meeting in the middle,
yeah,
which is a DIY move.
Which also was referenced by Excalibur, which I also thought was confusing.
Right. And the other one was a more subtle one, but they did the spot where both of them, one is in the ring, one's on the outside, and the Bucks have them in sharpshooters, and they're reaching for each other.
Yep. Saw that.
Which reminded me of their match at Toronto.
Yep.
TakeOver Toronto.
It's a shame that the Bucks will never be what Ciampa and Gargano are.
I know.
But honestly, the sharpshooters, by the way, awful. Looked awful. Actually, I take that back. Matt Jackson's looked okay. Nick Jackson's looked terrible.
Right.
Then there was a powerbomb through the table that looked awful. At this point, the 450 was straight up dumb going into the end of this sequence. I'm skipping over a bunch of spots, I know. But FTR, i.e. Cash, tried to do a 450.
They ripped the boot off of the Jackson.
They worked on the leg. And
he does a super kick with the boot off, and he gets the win.
Yeah. And they did the 450 straight. They missed it, and then I'm going to say a message to pro wrestling in general out here. This is to WWE and AEW because they both do this. And I'm going to clap every word for emphasis. Okay? You don't have to book heels like idiots. You don't have to do this. But every single time we have a tag match, it's because the guy was a moron and did something stupid that he shouldn't have, so the baby faces win. We see this with Garza. We see this with Private Party when they have matches, or WWE's version of Private Party with their stupid solo cups. We see this in every single tag match, in every match. The heels are made to look powerful and then idiotic and absolutely incompetent. And this is another incompetent booking finish. Because this made no sense. You made FTR look like a bunch of idiots. Why would Cash do that? He wouldn't.
Not to mention, it goes against their entire identity of a tag team that is no flips, just fists.
Oh yeah, look at that. They did a flip and they lost. How dumb can you be? I hate this. I hate this because this is the kind of thing that turns people away. Is making heels look like total morons. That's not how you.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please take over. I'm gonna start cutting heavier promos.
And think about this for a second. The stipulation of this match: had the Young Bucks lost, they would never challenge for the titles again. And Tully Blanchard was banned from ringside. This is doing way too much, way too soon, considering this was their first match ever.
Well,
now, Sean, may I take a couple minutes?
Well, before we get to this deletion thing, my final thought. I want my final thought on this because this is a match that I'm sure you said that this match was going to break me. Not here, but you said it in a chat on the day that this actually happened.
Yes, I said that the Bucks and FTR was going to break you.
I'm not broken by this. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. This could have gone way worse. Because the Revival, FTR could have really conceded the Young Bucks style and done way more spots and made tag team rules seem even less substantial. But they did their best to adhere to tag rules, which I noticed the whole time. So they did a good job of doing that. I don't understand taking the belts off FTR that quickly. You know, they just got them practically, and they're supposed to be the best team in here. The Bucks, the Bucks were the baby faces, and they were getting baby face responses, but they've been acting like pouty school children recently, and now they're going back to being heels. And it's like, I don't get it.
Here. May I continue?
I don't get it. This is what we've got to deal with, folks. This is the tag team division that we have come to be very confused about. But speaking of confusion...
Well, I just want to say one more thing. FTR has been ruined. They're not special anymore. They're not the tough, rough guys who are outsiders. They are now officially an AEW tag team.
FTR played ball. There's no doubt, but that was obvious from a while ago. If you've been paying attention to the to any of the TV, they've made concessions to a lot of different teams, and here we are with AEW, and that's our tag division.
Final nail in the coffin.
So now I will let the floor be yours. Please give us some background on the Elite deletion.
Okay. So, did you know that I actually have family in that area?
I did not.
So, my dad's side of the family lives in the Carolinas. And just on Tuesday, I was asking them how they were. They said they were doing okay, and recently they had something interesting happen. They had a thing where they were sleeping, and then they heard a bunch of fireworks in the area. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, yeah, and one of your cousins got to go work at the Hardy compound. And I was like, wait, what? So I talked to my cousin, and I have a first-hand account of the production of Elite Deletion. Would you be interested?
I'm very interested.
Now, my cousin agreed to speak to me on 2 conditions. 1, I don't mention his name.
Fair.
And 2, I don't mention what he did.
Fair.
Because afterwards he told me that he wished he didn't get involved.
Oh boy. And now I'm really intrigued.
So, a couple of weeks ago, he saw an advertisement to work for the Hardy compound. Now, my cousin is not a pro wrestling fan.
Fair.
What he is a college student who needs money.
Fair.
So he figured, why not? I'll make a little bit of extra money, and then I can just, whatever. So he gets booked at the Pinehurst Golf Resort Hotel to stay with the other workers who were going to be working on the compound.
Wait, back up. You say Pinehurst?
Pinehurst.
Okay. You ready to hear some, before you finish your story, you ready to hear the craziest thing?
Sure.
My grandmother and aunt live on that golf course.
Ooh.
I kid you not.
I wonder if they knew about the workers that were going there.
That is very interesting. And I'm now... we have further developments, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get to the bottom of Elite Deletion. We've got some further investigation to get on here. We may be starting to crack a case.
So they did filming for Elite Deletion what would have been last Wednesday and Thursday of the previous week that you're hearing this. And apparently there were anywhere from 250 to 300 people who were working on that project that were staying at the hotel.
Oh, boy.
And I checked the rates. That's $200. So for 300 people, that would be $60,000 a night to house your entire production team.
That's a lot.
My cousin later told me that you probably could have gotten the job done with maybe 50 people at most. He felt that the 300 was excessive.
Fair.
So he goes to the compound. It's actually a very nice place, and he did some work setting things up, like he was manual labor.
Right.
And he kept remarking that there was way too many people at the compound for what they were essentially doing was like a movie filming or like a movie scene filming.
Sure.
And he said that all the people were approachable with the notable exception of Rebel Hardy, Matt Hardy's wife, who insisted that no one talk to her unless she talked to them.
Oh, that's great.
And that no one parked their car nearby her pink car. I don't remember what you told me it was, but you could not park your car near that, nor could you put any equipment near that.
Okay,
Also,
Rebby.
Apparently, also, Rebby had a scene where she did a piano bits.
Yes.
She was inside the warehouse doing the piano bit for 2 hours with only 2 camera guys and 2 sound guys. And all the other people in production had to wait for them to finish before they could move on to the next thing.
Oh, God. That's torture.
And then after that, Rebel Hardy was not seen again because she apparently did not want anything to do with what they were doing besides the piano bits.
Cool.
So that tells me that she's still upset at Tony Khan for what happened at All Out.
I mean, and she still does have 3 kids to maintain.
But I'm also assuming that she was still angry at Tony Khan for what happened to her.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, there was that was not a safe bump, but we'll get to that bump soon enough.
Anyways, so my cousin relayed to me that he was wondering what the hell they were doing, because when they were filming, it was just a bunch of issues with filming, particularly with retakes. There were a lot of issues with 2 guys who were supposed to be helping out Matt Hardy in their match. I'm putting that in quotation marks. And they kept messing up their stunts. Now, do you know who those 2 guys are?
Dare I ask?
Private Party.
Oh, damn.
Because they had to do several retakes of them because they kept messing up their stunts. They also had to do several retakes with Matt Hardy, who was stressed out and couldn't get his words right when he was doing the scene by the lake.
Yes.
Also, my cousin's not a pro wrestling fan. He asked me, why the hell does Matt Hardy have a dead skunk on his head?
It's a long story.
It's a long story.
Like most pro wrestling stories, it's a long story.
He was doing filming for the production on the late Thursday night until maybe 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. It was day-breaking when they finally finished, which means they spent the entire night reshooting and refilming scenes. The whole time, they were asking, why the hell was the guy in the hoodie so happy? Because apparently the guy in the hoodie was the man who was bankrolling the entire thing, who approved the entire thing, and was overseeing everything. And they complained to him that they had way too many people and that this was way too much money. You know who the guy in the hoodie was?
Joey Janela.
No. The guy overseeing everything and bankrolling everything in the hoodie was one Tony Khan.
Whoa,
who was so happy and excited to shoot a film scene.
Yep, that sounds about right.
So that is my cousin's report.
Because Tony Khan is a giddy smark who saw total deletion and was like, I want it.
I want to film it. I am movie director.
So we're going to try and break this down. I mean, obviously, this was a joke. I felt bad for JR. When it comes to the deletion stuff, I just take all my pro wrestling and just throw it out the window. I'm just like, all right, entertain me. And we will see what comes out of it. First of all, is Sammy Guevara selling those golf carts? Because I know quite a lot of golf courses that would probably enjoy those Spanish God golf carts.
They probably got it from a Pinehurst.
Yeah, because it's I did like that. Yeah, that makes more sense now, definitely. Then the monster truck. It's so funny that Matt Hardy had the monster truck. I was just talking to a coworker about Hogan and the Giant doing their big monster truck feud, and then all of a sudden Matt Hardy shows up with a monster truck.
Oh, by the way, they also said that they had issues with the monster truck because it didn't crush the golf cart; it just knocked it over, which is what they didn't want to happen.
Yeah,
they wanted it to crush the golf cart.
Well, I'm sure that's probably not one of the first times that Matt Hardy has ever driven a monster truck as well, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. But anyway, what I did like was that at least for most of this match, they didn't have the really cheesy theme music.
Well, hold on. Let's not use the word match. This movie.
This cinematic adventure. Another cinematic. I will probably end up calling it match on purpose. Well, if you believe the referee's hand hitting the grass sounding like the wood of a canvas. Did you hear that?
Oh, please, no.
Did you hear that, Scott?
I'm sure it was edited in.
No, but JR caught it. JR caught it. He said, "Oh, that wood sounds great when the ref's hand hitting the grass." JR called it out because JR, he can't take that seriously.
No.
So he's literally just like shitting on it the entire time. Him and Tony. It was just, that was one thing about the commentary. They were crapping all over this, and because they have a reputation to maintain. And poor Excalibur's trying to save face.
If they wanted to maintain their reputation, they never should have signed on in the first place.
I know, but there's money in it, Sky. And, but not even Excalibur, who was trying to save it, and even he was like, this was bad. And then I also put down in my notes, it's a party at the Hardys, because everybody's showing up to the Hardy compound, despite all the rules and regulations. But, I don't know enough about North Carolina and what they're doing with that. But then there's a private party shows up in a car. Why would AEW have a camera in Private Party's car if it really is a private party? So I guess it's not a private party. I guess it's a public party because AEW has a camera in their car when the one time that they would be private.
Hold on. They set this up with
Ortiz and Santana.
Santana and Ortiz showing up to help Sammy Guevara. Matt Hardy gets on a walkie-talkie for help, and Private Party say, 10-4, buddy, we're on our way. And then they start beating him up for another minute, and then Private Party says, fine, let's go. So they wasted an entire minute while Matt Hardy was getting his ass kicked by 3 people.
Yep. And I at this point, I had to stop myself. I'm like, wait. You can't start putting logic into this. This is a place without logic. And that turned out to be correct. And then they threw the fireworks, and Matt Hardy shoots the fireworks up and well over everyone else's head as everyone ducks for cover when Matt is clearly not aiming at them. That was dumb.
Everyone has to act so scared of the fireworks hitting them, despite them going in the air.
And then Sammy pulls it back, and then they end up having this fight. And, not for nothing, they were, like, hitting trees and dried pine needles. And, like, I'm sure you've been to North Carolina, Sky. Isn't that how forest fires start?
Actually, according to my cousin, they had noise complaints because of the fireworks, because that wasn't the only 2 fireworks they shot. According to him, they had to do several retakes of that, too.
Oh, of course, because they had to aim it right. And the worst part about that is that how many of those that could have caught that whole place on fire with the way that we've been getting fires all over the place. How smart was it to shoot fireworks at people in the middle of drought? I don't know.
As has been stated before, remember, it is Memorial Day weekend.
And then that's right. Of course, it's Memorial Day weekend. How could I have forgotten? Thank you, Tony Schiavone. And then
I'm gonna find a way to get that into every single.
You should, because that was iconic. That was an iconic line from Tony Schiavone, and I will never forget that. That was the best.
For all the wrong reasons.
Then Matt Hardy hurt me because he said some things that I did not want him to say, particularly about Sammy Guevara lying in the mud and rolling around in the mud. And then Matt Hardy picks him up and goes, get up, Sammy. Older people will think that this is a mud show.
And it got a pop from the people in the arena.
Of course it did. And honestly, I popped, but it was more of a groan because I'm like, come on, Matt, don't hurt me like that. Don't hurt me like that. Because anyone who knows anything about me, if you've been following along from the beginning, is that I have been a big listener of Jim Cornette. Really like Jim and everything that he talks about. Well, most everything he talks about. He's not right all the time, but in any way, you know that was a deliberate pot shot at Jim.
But it's also clear that Jim Cornette lives rent-free in AEW's mind.
Yeah, and keep mentioning him, guys, because he's just going to get money. And then comes Gangrel and the Hurricane.
Gangrel showing up in a hood, threatening to bite off the head of Hurricane Shane Helms if Matt Hardy did not give up.
And then also trying to make the excuse of, like, Sammy's been my friend, Sammy's loyal, you left, I like Sammy over you. And then he just added into the Russo-esque brawl that would end up coming out on the ring, where just everybody just started wrestling in the ring, even though the camera still followed Matt and Sammy throughout the whole thing. How come the Hurricane never hit the choke slam?
Well, because the Hurricane doesn't have that power.
It's not fair.
You heard the conversation.
Hurricanes do have that power.
Hold on. You heard the conversation between Hurricane Shane Helms and Matt Hardy after Private Party got Gangrel off of Hurricane.
Yes.
Right?
I did.
What was that conversation?
Oh, it was this, how come it took so long? Oh, long-term booking, pot shot at WWE.
I had to leave the other company.
Yeah, I had to come here to finish this. Guys, stop.
And then they kick the Hurricane into the Lake of Reincarnation, and then he comes back out as Shane Helms.
Which, I mean, and then he got thrown back into the Lake of Reincarnation and didn't come back out as anything, so we can only assume that
and
he
then he came back out as the Hurricane.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He did come to fight in the middle of the ring. And
which exactly the same as it was before.
Yeah. This was
which means I think they used reshots.
And then we found out that the Inner Circle is good at a lot of things. Opening a basic garage door is not one of them.
Well, that's the power of Vanguard 1.
Oh, no, that's not Vanguard 1. That's John or Tron or whatever the hell they called it. It's a new one because Chris Jericho destroyed Vanguard 1. So
listen to what you're saying. This sounds so stupid.
It is. That's because it is, Sky. That's because it is. Then the door closes and then in comes the cheesy horror music and it gets really, really cringy. From here on out, this was just bad. Sammy Guevara goes and attempts murder on Matt Hardy by choking the life out of him with that really fat practice ring rope turnbuckle. And the ref, and Sky, I don't know whether you knew this. Did you know the Masters was this weekend?
Where was it?
No, it's like happening this coming weekend.
Oh, yeah, Augusta.
Well, yeah, it's happening at Augusta, and you could tell because the 3 AEW commentators acted like they were at the Masters when Matt Hardy was getting the life sucked out of him, and Sammy Guevara was trying to murder Matt Hardy. They're like, oh, yes, his life is being sucked away from him. Oh, let's see if he can save par here.
At that point, I just tuned out commentary because I didn't want to listen to them anymore.
It was so bad. The music was bad. Matt Hardy's pants made it look like he peed himself.
Well,
I don't know whether anybody noticed. I don't know whether it was just his jeans or whether he actually did pee himself. But if he did that many retakes, I assume that was deliberate. Or they were out there for so long that he actually did pee his pants.
I hope not.
Anyway.
Also, I didn't realize with the retakes, how many times did Hurricane get kicked into the Lake of Reincarnation?
I'm sure too many. Lord only knows how wet that suit was and how badly it smelled the day after. One can only shudder to think. And then this finish. So Matt Hardy does the play on the spear that Sammy Guevara did to Matt that caused Matt to get concussed, but Matt does it back to Sammy, but the angle is shown where it's very obvious they hit 2 tables.
It was from the other side of the ring, and you could clearly tell that they either hit 2 tables or a mat.
Yeah. And then
they come back.
And then they have this fake blood. I hate to use the word, but it's what it was. It basically just smeared fake blood in pools anywhere where Sammy Guevara was laying down. And, and then they took the shot to the head, the one that Matt Hardy got. So Matt was dishing all of the stuff out back to Sammy. And then finally,
and then you can see a little bit of the fake blood on the back of Sammy's head, not even dripping off like real blood.
It was stuck like glue. It was so non-believable. He's bleeding out of his mouth with no reason. And then Matt does the concerto the safe way, so Sammy's head didn't actually get hurt. But it was still it was so fake. But in my notes, I have in all caps, "Fuck me." It was so fake, but fuck me. That shot to the head, Sammy sold that beautifully.
He did, and I still hated it.
It was still so fake and so phony. And then Matt won, and then we're all supposed to cheer like that was a babyface win, but I was like, y'all, that was grotesque. Like, I don't want to cheer for you now, Matt.
It took me out of the moment because it was so meta, but also it was just uncomfortable to watch.
And then Senior Benjamin,
as a wrestling match.
And then Senior Benjamin showed up and get the best pop of the night.
Yep. They put Sammy Guevara in a trash can. They take the trash can outside. They put him in a truck. And then Senior Benjamin takes him away.
I guess the Inner Circle just left Sammy to die. Couldn't get through that garage door and just left.
Yeah.
The ultimate...
You know what my cousin asked me after this?
Why would anyone like pro wrestling?
Yeah, he asked me why I like pro wrestling.
Yeah. It's a long story.
I like pro wrestling, but this was not pro wrestling.
Yeah, I like pro wrestling. I didn't like whatever this was. I know it's a deletion thing, and I know that people like the deletion thing because of what it was in 2016. But
it's a dated gimmick. We see through it now.
Yeah, I think
it's not fun anymore.
Its time has come and gone. And speaking of people whose time has come and gone, it is Chris Jericho. It is Chris Jericho versus MJF in a very weird heel versus heel match that I personally feel they should not have put these two together in any capacity.
Do you want to know what I thought of this match?
What did you think of this match?
I thought it was sad. I thought it was pathetic watching 50-year-old Chris Jericho try to wrestle with a man half his age.
Jericho, I noticed in this match more than any other, has really significantly slowed down.
He couldn't wrestle anymore.
He couldn't keep up.
Chris Jericho, his offense looked weak. He couldn't sell. He couldn't really move. You could see his belly just bouncing up and down. It just...
Three words.
Gross.
3 words. Flabby, daddy, titties. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. Jericho hit a Frankensteiner that looked nice, but Jericho, he was not moving the way that we did. It's like I had so little to write about this match because it was just blah. And honestly, MJF did everything he could.
He tried. MJF, you can only do so much with something that has better movement than a broom.
Yeah, and this was the only thing I really liked about this match. Weird. It was structured weird. The only thing I really liked about this match was the finish. Everything else I could have done without. It's I really wish though still that MJF's Heat Seeker actually beat somebody once in a while. It'd be nice to have a finisher finish a match. Just once.
What are you talking about?
Just once.
Hold on. Did we besides Kenny Omega, did anybody's finisher win them a match this pay-per-view?
No. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like that not even the Bucks won with their with a finish. No finish.
Oh my God, I just realized the fact that that's really even worse.
Yeah. No finishers finish matches. And that's another part of why AEW is a head and shoulders a step below what a really quality wrestling promotion could and should be. But then this finish was brilliant, I thought. It's getting towards the end. MJF calls Wardlow in to get the ring. Wardlow goes to distract the ref. Jericho then calls in Jake Hager, and Jake Hager throws Jericho the bat, and when Jericho...
After MJF missed with the diamond ring.
Right, goes to hit him with the bat, MJF sees that the referee's done being distracted and pulls in Eddie Guerrero and sells like he just took a big bump, and Jericho got caught in the act, which obviously didn't happen. Jericho gets distracted as the referee takes the bat. MJF gets a roll-up, 1, 2, 3. That finish was great.
It was a tribute to Eddie Guerrero.
I just wish that this was not a heel-heel matchup for heel-heel stipulations that ended with two heels embracing and being heels.
Yeah, they have this match, and then they hug at the end.
Yeah, it just...
Like, Chris Jericho was mad for all of 1 second, and then he was like, oh, okay, welcome to the Inner Circle.
All right, you did it, yeah. This was like, it was a dumb stipulation. These two should have been kept as far away from each other as possible. You have two really quality heels. Why would you put them together when you could make more with them individually?
The only thing I could see is that MJF will eventually become the leader of the Inner Circle and Chris Jericho out, turning him babyface.
Well, there was a tease of that, a little bit, because Jericho was getting cheered. So we'll have to see, but still, I just didn't care for this match. It was two guys I like, but I didn't care for this match at all. Jericho has really lost a step.
No, he doesn't. He didn't lose a step. He has no steps anymore.
Yeah,
I do not want to see Chris Jericho wrestle anymore because it's clear as my eye that he doesn't have it anymore physically, and it's just sad and pathetic to watch him try and walk around the ring with his giant belly.
Do you think now is the time for a rematch between Chris Jericho and Hulk Hogan?
No, time is now for you to wrestle Chris Jericho.
Yes, that's right. Because that's right, I forgot that we had set this up. Chris, the time has come, sir. We've been watching. I've been seeing what you've been doing. And let me tell you something, Chris. Just a promo alone and getting a check from Tony Khan doesn't constitute you as anything anymore. Because all I see from Chris Jericho was a Y2K of yesterday. Because the newest era, the hindsight era, is 2020, and 2020 and beyond is your Colonial Champion Sean McCarty. I don't care where it's got to be. I don't care when it's got to be. But before it's all said and done, Chris, the mirror will be cast, and you will have to look deep down into your own soul and wonder what's left, because I'm going to take whatever you got remaining. And that, my friend, that's a fact. But moving right along.
Moving right along to our main event.
Let's go on to our main event. That's right. I promoted him speechless, ladies and gentlemen. Speechless.
That was a good promo. I got nothing to say.
Jon Moxley, thank you, versus Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match for the AEW Heavyweight Championship.
Actually, hold on. I think you're confusing something. Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match for the CZW World Championship.
Honestly, this was not as bad as CZW Encounters, so I'm not going to give it CZW branding. A lot of people said it was going to be CZW. I didn't really see it that way. I said it was more ECW than CZW. I know that that's a distinction without a difference to some. But I will explain later.
I see your point. What I also see is Eddie Kingston wearing the worst ring gear of the night.
They made some sort of gimmick that was supposed to be a tribute to Misawa, but it really just looked like Eddie Kingston was the one member of the Spirit Squad who quit the team early and just decided to, like, pig out and just watch football for, like, 40 years afterwards. And he's like, yeah, I was on the cheerleading squad. I was, like, the best cheerleader there ever was. Well, I still fit in the uniform. You know, look at me right here.
It's either that or he stole the outfits of the Street Profits from SummerSlam and was the kicked out third member of the Street Profits.
So, yeah, I've been drinking solo cups since before those kids were in diapers. I'm not even playing this anyway. So
He just looked like he just got off of a basketball court ready to wrestle a match against Jon Moxley, a.k.a. Goldberg, because his entrance is so fucking long.
It took forever. But I still really liked the Tracy Smothers t-shirt that Eddie Kingston wore. That was a nice tribute. So
yeah.
It took all of 4 minutes and we're on the outside. I don't know why that's a surprise.
No, hold on. Can I say something, Sean, about this match that really emphasizes how much I hated it?
Please do.
This match, and I hate to use this word because you know what it implies, this match felt fake.
It was.
Because they were playing up the animosity between Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. And you know what they start this match off with?
You hit me, I hit you, strong style. Yeah. They start with a 1-2. Yeah. Honestly, I didn't hate that. I wish they would have just gone right into a brawl, though, because those two look like they could just fight each other on the street. I would have liked to have seen more of that struggle than the weapons. But that's personally just my opinion.
I agree with you. The weapons did not help.
It was... I feel like an I Quit match is a bit drastic for a first-time encounter on AEW programming, don't you?
Oh, what are you talking about? First time for everything. Let's throw everything at the wall.
This was a long 18 minutes to hotshot a feud. I feel like we said that before this show.
I mean, we got to get ready for that next title match.
I know. Oh, God. And then...
Which, by the way, it did not help that we had a number one contendership match again for the world title earlier in the pay-per-view because it telegraphed the finish.
It did.
You felt no tension whatsoever in this match because you knew who was going to win.
Yeah, and sadly, it's just... I really liked Kingston's barbed wire punches. I thought that looked vicious. It looked great. But then he tried to dump Moxley on the baseball bat, and Moxley completely missed it. I don't know whether we watched that. You saw that?
He didn't know how to sell it, so he just missed it on purpose.
Yeah, because it's not a natural thing to do. It's not everybody's like, oh, how am I going to bump on a barbed wire baseball bat? That doesn't really come across most people's minds.
Which, by the way, the answer to do that is you just land on the baseball bat, but you will emote with your face how much it hurts.
Yes.
That's all you do.
And then Tony Schiavone said the line of the match, which was, "What the hell are we watching?" And
are you talking about the match or the pay-per-view?
No, the match. Well, either in this context.
To the pay-per-view too.
In the context, that would have been a great tagline, actually, if they, the AEW Full Gear. What the hell are we watching? That's a seller right there.
Oh yeah.
Then they do that chair setup that Eddie Kingston stupidly goes through, and JR says,
it reminded me of the kendo stick setup from Bailey.
Yeah, and JR said a great line. You don't learn to fall that way in wrestling school. Which is a kind of a shame for a pro wrestling show, huh?
I mean, if you take this in the concept of a fight, it's not as bad, but the problem is that it didn't feel like a fight.
Yeah.
Eddie Kingston should not have the time to set up chairs like that.
And also, I'm done with tax. They do nothing for me. I'm desensitized. They did tax on the last show. During the Battle Royal, of all places. When you do it every time I see you, it loses value for me. I don't care. The isopropyl...
Same thing with juice, because every single Jon Moxley match has to have juice. And juice once in a while is great, especially when you don't get it. But when you get it, every title match, every hardcore match, you have to have juice.
Yeah, and this was... and then Eddie Kingston gets the alcohol to sterilize all of Jon Moxley's wounds. What a good dude. And what a waste.
That was a cool spot.
And what a waste of alcohol that was. People need that shit. We're sterilizing things.
Tony's a billionaire. He can afford it.
I'm not. I could have used that. I could have used that isopropyl. It was a waste of isopropyl, and I don't appreciate some valuable commodity being wasted on the back of a guy who doesn't want to pro wrestle anymore because he wants to do his CZW garbage and get paid well to do it.
How much do you think Renee Paquet hates Jon Moxley right now?
I think I'm not at liberty to comment because I don't know.
But on Twitter, she was just cringing all night to this match. Like, make it stop.
Yeah. And
I wish I could make it stop too, but I don't have the power to do that.
Yeah. It went long again. And then this was... I don't understand why we don't use microphones for I Quit matches anymore.
No, they used them for... Did they use it in the Usos ring?
No, they did not.
I don't remember.
No, they did not. And I made the same comment. I was like, how come we don't use microphones anymore? And
I think the only reason is because there's no people in the...
Yeah, they could...
The show did have people.
Yeah.
The show did have people.
Yeah. So get a goddamn microphone.
WWE's excuse.
Half of an I Quit match's fun is the trash talking in between, which is what both these guys are good at. So why didn't you add that to this? It's I don't know. It's just, once again, this is smart booking and smart setup, and why AEW just feels like the D League. It feels like TMNXT. For those of you who get that reference.
This feels like amateur hour. This is the type of booking that you would see at your promotion that you could pay $25 for to sit in the front row.
Yeah.
This is terrible. This is awful. I don't need to ever see this type of match again because, honestly, I'm sick of the hardcore stuff. But we get every main event, every world title shot. It's almost to the point where it's not special anymore.
Well, until the belt gets off of Moxley, we're not going to see anything change, and that's really the biggest part of it. And you have to imagine, next up is going to be the rematch between Omega and Moxley, which I imagine Omega's going to win. He'll defend it for a while and then eventually lose it to Page, based on how they've set up if they're going to do a real long-term booking of this.
Right. And here's my question to you. This show, overall, besides Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes, every single person who you thought was going to win was going to win.
I would say that's fair. That's fair. There was
hurt the show that's so predictable.
I mean, the only thing, maybe Nia Jax. Nia had a shot. I said it again. Maybe Nyla Rose had a shot. Nyla Rose had a shot. I couldn't help myself.
I'm sorry, man. I did that too with that line. And most girls.
And I don't mean to disrespect Nyla Rose, because I do believe that Nyla Rose has surpassed Nia Jax as far as work rate and workability.
Well, unfortunately, it was a low bar.
It was a low bar, but she's passed it. But all in all, this show, what are your final thoughts closing in on AEW's Full Gear?
So, there were things I legitimately enjoyed. Like, I did enjoy this show in parts, but there's just too much absence of logic, too much booking problems, too much issues, storytelling. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this man who you are seeing right now, named Tony Khan, is a guy who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's a wrestling smart, booking for smarts.
Yep.
And he's going to waste his money by overpaying for shit that is not good. As far as a rating for the score, I gave All Out a 2 out of 10. This show, I'm feeling like I'm gonna be nice to Cody and Darby Allin because they did have the best match of the show. I'm gonna give this a 3.5.
Wow, critical.
Again, I want to like this show. I want to like this company, but they refuse. They don't give it to me. Because at the end of the day, they promised a sports-based alternative to the sports entertainment style of World Wrestling Entertainment. And all I see is sports entertainment in another form, in another way, mixed in with indie bullshit that drags the wrestling business down.
Well, that's kind of where my line stands. It's like, I want AEW to be better. There are a lot of things that are getting better about AEW. There's no denying there is a progression here. But the problem is the real problems and the ones that are being hampered are the ones that aren't changing. And that's because of who's causing them happens to have an executive vice president role in them. And this show for me was much better than All Out. But I saw more potential here than I did last time. I think the talent was better. Yes, like all AEW shows, it was schizophrenic. But I think there was more good in it, at least in surprising ways. I'm going to be a little bit kinder. I'm going to teeter in between 4.5 and 5. Because I think that there was more redeemable in Omega and Page than there's been in other Omega matches. Cody and Darby was good, save for the finish. I was really surprised in how well Nyla and Shida went. The Bucks and FTR could have gone way worse than it was. And then the final 3 matches were the final 3 matches, and that really is what brought the rest of the show down. But it all
that also brings me to another point that I wanted to make, is that this show, in all honesty, had the Young Bucks and FTR been the main events, I would have been fine with that, because that honestly, as much as I didn't like the match, I think it could have been a main event worthy, especially because we've been waiting for it for 4 years and they've been building up to it.
Well,
and that's no disrespect to Eddie Kingston and John Moxley, but I feel like that long-term storytelling deserves to be the main event.
Well, do you recall when Tony Khan said when AEW was getting started that we are going to have an emphasis on tag teams and we're going to treat them just as much as the singles guys? And yet we have not seen a tag team match of any constitution anywhere close to a main event at all.
And this was the one match that you could have main evented a tag team with.
Yeah.
And this tells me now that tag team wrestling will never be a main event in this company. Serious tag team wrestling.
This was their
Serious
shot.
Tag team wrestling with respect to professional wrestling.
Yeah. And sadly, that is what it is with AEW. We saw what we wanted, but this is what we've got. So that's going to wrap it up for our AEW Full Gear review. And thankfully, we have until 2021 before we have to do another one of these. But stay tuned. Next week is ACPW versus NWL week/month 6. I'm super excited. Skyler, I will see you then.
I will see you then, my man, and I'm looking forward to the shows.
Hell yeah, and I'm looking forward to cleanse the palate with some of our own creativity. And we also have a match of the week coming up later, up on Tuesday, so thank you very much in advance for clicking on that. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, drop kick that bell button, V-trigger that bell button, whichever AEW star you like the most. Use his finisher, that won't get the pin, but use his finisher on that bell button. For all things CMP, thank you very much for watching, and we will be right back after these commercial breaks.